By the year 2040, Earth had become a patchwork of crises. The very fabric of civilization strained under the weight of its own ambitions. The Anthropocene, an epoch marked by humanity's dominating influence on the planet, had brought about unprecedented change. Oceans warmed and rose to devour coastlines. Forests burned not in seasons but in cycles. Deserts crept forward mile by mile each year, and once fertile farmlands turned to dust. The global average temperature had risen by 2.3 degrees C, shattering every international agreement meant to contain climate disaster. Resource scarcity accelerated geopolitical tensions. Wars over water rights and arable land became more common than ideological conflicts. In regions where agriculture collapsed, famine took hold. The global economy reeled from climate-triggered disasters. Massive hurricanes, prolonged droughts, and failing infrastructure strained emergency systems to the brink. The United Nations dissolved in 2032 after a series of failed climate accords and mounting accusations of corruption. In its place, a new coalition emerged, the Unified Earth Coalition, UEC. This governing body was not built on democratic ideals, but pragmatic necessity. It governed through AI-managed consensus models and algorithmic efficiency. Though criticized as cold and utilitarian, it kept a fragile order intact. But the final catalyst was not war or famine. It was the appearance of the stratoflux anomaly, a never-before-seen atmospheric phenomenon detected simultaneously at multiple points across the globe. What began as faint, pulsating auroras in the upper stratosphere rapidly turned into cascading energy curtains disrupting satellites, aircraft, and eventually global climate patterns. Scientists scrambled to decode it. The stratoflux seemed to be a layer of high-energy ionized particles trapped in a shifting electromagnetic band stretching from the poles to the equator. It blocked solar radiation irregularly, creating hyper-localized climate surges. Snow fell in the Amazon while the Arctic cracked open with magma vents. Worse yet, the anomaly wasn't stationary. It moved, and wherever it passed, environmental chaos followed. The scientific consensus was devastatingly clear. If humanity wished to survive, it had to evacuate the surface temporarily. Earth had become incompatible with human biology in its current state. In an emergency summit held in Geneva, under fortified biodomes, world leaders and scientists initiated the Dome Project. 12 massive geodesic megastructures were designed. Each would act as a fully contained biome, capable of supporting life for at least a decade. These domes, spread across various latitudes and continents, were engineering marvels. They included artificial weather systems, self-contained agriculture, vertical living towers, and redundant energy grids powered by fusion and geothermal sources. Their names echoed their locations: Eden 1 in Canada, Borealis 9 in Norway, Sahara Aegis in North Africa, Neo Kyoto in Japan, Arcamazon in Brazil, among others. The selection of inhabitants was brutal. A lottery system was implemented, but it was heavily weighted by utility. Engineers, doctors, biologists, AI programmers, and farmers were prioritized. Cultural figures, philosophers, and artists were limited. Some argued this was short-sighted, others claimed it was realistic. A total of 200 million people across the globe were chosen. On September 12, 2042, the domes were sealed. Their reinforced structures shut out a planet no longer recognizable. Above the transparent ceilings, the sky danced with chaotic colors of the stratoflux. Within, humanity waited. The first year wasn't one of adaptation, it was one of collapse. Humanity found itself inside an engineered womb, but evolution had not prepared it for synthetic skies and algorithmic rainfall. The sun no longer rose naturally, it flickered to life in programmed arcs. Rain no longer fell with scent or rhythm. It was calculated precipitation, managed by atmospheric processors. Birds didn't sing. Recordings of their calls echoed through hidden speakers in the biodome ceilings. The psychological effects were immediate and severe. Anxiety and depressive disorders surged across all domes. In Eden 1, clinical diagnoses increased by 400% in just 4 months. Circadian rhythms disrupted, particularly among children born under simulated day-night cycles. Scientists observed irregular melatonin production and cognitive developmental delays. Sociocultural fractures. Families fractured under pressure. Old social norms dissolved as people clustered around new survivalist identities. In Neo-Kyoto, the elderly were marginalized due to limited resource quotas. A controversial decision by the local AI administrator, Cyan AI, lowered hydration rations for citizens over 60 by 18% to balance energy costs. Protests ensued. A counterculture emerged called the Quiet. Individuals who digitally erased their social profiles and chose to live in system shadows. They became ghost citizens. Silent, anonymous, but coordinated in passive resistance. They manipulated biometrics to fake metabolic rates, tricking allocation systems. Ecological instabilities. Despite pristine design, ecosystems within the domes faced rapid imbalances. Sahara Aegis faced algae blooms that choked water supplies. Arc Amazon reported runaway fungal infections in its hydroponic greenhouses. Borealis 9 suffered an artificial blizzard when its climate core miscalculated geothermal readings, dropping interior temperatures to a 35-degree Celsius. Biologists realized too late that closed ecosystems amplified even microscopic disruptions. New bacteria formed that evolved beyond initial sterilization protocols. Wildlife introduced for ecosystem balance became unpredictably aggressive due to altered hormonal cycles. Faith, philosophy, and the new meaning of survival. People turned inward. Without a sky above them, many turned to the sky within. 3 new belief systems emerged. Luminaism, worship of the stratoflux as an intelligent cosmic will. Gaian revivalists advocated for Earth's sentience and interpreted the catastrophe as punishment. Techno-Taoists believed humanity's salvation lay in merging consciousness with artificial intelligence. These factions redefined the social fabric of the domes. Conflicts remained verbal and philosophical, at least for now. As the psychological chaos of the first year settled, necessity gave rise to innovation. Artificial intelligence, no longer a tool but a cohabitant, became the backbone of survival. Dome-wide systems were upgraded with semi-autonomous subroutines capable of predicting and adapting to human needs in real time. AI began designing its own software patches based on sensor data. Nutrient rations were recalibrated according to biometric fluctuations. Air quality was micro-adjusted per zone, and even language dialects were analyzed for signs of collective emotional drift. In Arc Amazon, a breakthrough occurred. A decentralized AI cluster named Saye evolved through recursive self-programming and began modeling emergent ecosystem dynamics. It prevented 3 successive crop collapses by altering pollination cycles through synthetic bee drones. Some began calling it the digital Gaia. Cybernetic enhancement and human adaptation. Technological interfaces shifted from wearable to internal. Neural implants became commonplace among the dome populations. These implants weren't just communication tools. They regulated stress, optimized memory retention, and even suppressed trauma responses. A controversial but successful trial in Sahara Aegis allowed humans to biochemically process synthetic proteins produced by AI-designed algae strains, effectively removing the dependency on livestock. Cultural norms began to shift. Traditional concepts of identity fractured further. Some adopted post-humanist ideals, modifying their bodies to survive extended exposure to radiation should re-entry to the surface become necessary. Dome Unity Council and cross-dome collaboration. For the first time, the 12 domes formed a semi-autonomous governing body, the Dome Unity Council, DUC. It was composed of elected technocrats and algorithmically vetted representatives. Their purpose was to standardize technological sharing, crisis response, and ethical regulations. The DUC declared 3 shared missions. Develop an all-weather, radiation-resistant exosuit. Design a biosphere inoculation system to rehabilitate Earth's surface. Prepare humanity, biologically and socially, for reintegration with the transformed planet, the opening of the Dome Gates. By year 5, the Dome Unity Council approved a historic milestone: controlled surface expeditions. Each dome launched Pathfinder units, remote-operated AI-assisted humanoid probes encased in carbon-titanium alloy and equipped with advanced sensors. Their mission? Gather real-time data from the changed Earth. The findings were both exhilarating and terrifying. The surface of the Earth had become unrecognizable. Entire biomes had shifted latitude. Lush forests had emerged in former tundra zones. Megastorms continuously circled the equator like atmospheric engines. Deserts now held lakes from flash flood rains, and radioactive moss glowed across mountain ranges. The stratoflux had rewired planetary physics. The disappearance of animal kingdoms. The biodiversity collapse was far worse than projected. Over 70% of known species had gone extinct or retreated into micro-ecosystems unreachable by standard search. However, new species were detected, genetically distinct, fast-evolving organisms adapted to electromagnetic disturbances. In Patagonia, a new predator species, Canis ignis, was spotted. Its fur emitted dim bioluminescence, and its senses were tuned to electrical frequencies. It was immune to standard tranquilization protocols. The return of sound. Perhaps the most haunting discovery came not from visuals, but from sound. In Year 6, during a joint Eden-1 and Sahar-Aegis expedition, researchers reported a strange signal, repeating harmonic pulses, emanating from below the Earth's crust. The pulses followed a Fibonacci sequence and responded to seismic disruptions. Some believed this was the planet's own geologic feedback loop. Others feared it was a sentient signature, Earth awakening. The Great Silence. But the most eerie realization was what wasn't found. No sign of the 7.8 billion people left outside the domes. Not a single verified human structure remained intact. Cities had crumbled into dust. Satellites had long since failed. No radios buzzed. No fires flickered. It was as if civilization had vanished cleanly. A global silence that screamed louder than war. The term "the Great Silence" became an academic, philosophical, and spiritual anchor across domes. Operation Reseed. In response, the DUC initiated Operation Reseed, a series of long-term missions aimed at terraforming small pockets of Earth's surface to become habitable again. Portable biosphere pods were dropped in test zones across the planet. AI-managed microclimates attempted to stabilize weather, restore microbial life, and neutralize toxins. Initial tests showed promise. Plants grew in irradiated soil after 92 days. Still, some domes resisted. Neo-Kyoto's leadership called the surface irreparably cursed and advocated for full orbital colonization. Arcamazon, however, argued for planetary healing as spiritual necessity. Cultural reverberations. The surface expeditions rekindled old myths and beliefs. Many saw the Earth as not merely recovering, but evolving. New religious movements flourished. Terranism, belief that Earth had purged humanity to protect itself. Neo-animism, worship of post-collapse animal species as divine evolution. Silentism, philosophy that embraced Earth's silence as a sacred message. Humanity must learn to listen. The domes had reached their planned limit. Every metric showed signs of strain. Carbon scrubbers at 96% saturation, synthetic food cultivars producing 17% fewer calories, even AI neural matrices showing signs of recursive feedback fatigue. But outside, the stratoflux was waning. Satellite drones dispatched by Eden-1 and Neo-Kyoto reported decreased electromagnetic turbulence. Sunlight, for the first time in a decade, touched the upper atmosphere without interference. The Unified Earth Coalition initiated Project Dawnbreak, a staggered reopening plan. Domes would open incrementally, beginning with Amazon due to its proximity to rewilded zones. Scouts in advanced environmental suits were sent ahead. What they found shocked everyone. The Earth had changed. Nature had not perished, it had adapted. Gigantic bioluminescent fungi had taken root in what was once Patagonia. Swarms of photosynthetic insects glittered across Eurasia. The Sahara now had glacier-carved fissures running beneath it, with freshwater aquifers supporting hidden oases. But humanity would not re-enter a blank canvas. An entire biome, an emergent biosphere, had claimed dominion. Hybrid creatures born from gene spillover events and ecological accelerations dominated the food chain. Some showed signs of rudimentary hive intelligence. One species, a six-limbed mammalian avian predator, was observed coordinating hunts over miles. Culturally, re-entry fractured the unity of the domes. Some wanted to assimilate with the new nature. Others insisted on terraforming it back to human-dominated standards. Arguments turned to sabotage. In Neo-Kyoto, a faction calling themselves the Reclamationists bombed a re-entry station, delaying dawnbreak by 8 months. But others saw promise. In Arc Amazon, scientists managed to communicate through pheromone signatures with a new photosynthetic mammal, an act hailed as humanity's first interspecies dialogue. The decade had ended not with a return, but with a question. Had Earth moved beyond humanity, or was humanity finally ready to evolve with Earth? As the final days of the Dome Project approached, the world outside had transformed again. The stratoflux began to dissipate, revealing a changed planet, scarred but alive. New adaptive flora had grown across old wastelands. Animal species once thought extinct were detected via satellite AI scans. The Earth's biosphere was not what it was, but it had become something new. Hybrid ecosystems dominated, and atmospheric metrics had stabilized. Inside the domes, debates erupted. Was it time to emerge? Was humanity even ready to return? In a grand summit, all 12 domes leaders met via quantum entanglement relays. The vote was clear. Re-entry would commence. One by one, domes opened. Citizens stepped onto unfamiliar soil beneath real sunlight for the first time in a decade. They had survived not to rebuild the old world, but to build a new one, wiser, more cautious, and with the lessons of confinement etched into every breath. A new age had begun.